Well, good morning, everyone. We'd like to take this time to welcome you to the Elevate Youth California Youth Substance Use Disorder Prevention Program, Round 4 Standard Track Funded Partner Overview Webinar. We are so glad that you have joined this webinar today. We have a lot of information to cover, but before we hop to the next slide, we just want to quickly say congratulations, and we are certainly glad to be in partnership with you all today. We can go ahead and go to the next slide. So we do want to take a moment to introduce our team and the teams here at the center who will be working with you throughout the duration of your grant. And so I'll start with myself. My name is Shira Murray, and I'm a Senior Program Associate with the Elevate Youth California team. And I will go ahead and pass it over to Paul Bender.
Thank you so much, Shira. And hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Bulvinder Kaur, and I serve as the Senior Program Officer and Day-to-Day Lead for Elevate Youth California. Not with us today is Matt Cervantes, our Managing Director of Healthy Youth Development Programs, and one of the programs that Elevate Youth is under. And I just wanted to say as well, congratulations! Super exciting. We are bringing back round 1 funded partners and having new awards for them, as well as a slate of new community-based and tribal organizations from across the state. And with that, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Andrew.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Andrew Hall, and I'm one of the program associates, and just super excited to be in this space with you all. Also, I wanted to introduce my other team member, Latashnia Hall, who's the other program associate, who's currently traveling. So I think she wished she was able to join today, but is currently traveling. And I'll pass it to Gerald.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Gerald White, the program assistant with Elevate Youth California, and congratulations. We're really excited for you. I'm excited. And with that, I think I'm going to toss it back to Shira.
Thank you. So we can go to the next slide, and we will introduce our evaluation team. So this team here provides support to our funded partners for reporting and also evaluation. And so on the screen, you'll see 3 members. You'll see Marie Samuels, the Managing Director of Evaluation and Learning, Noemi Avalos, an Evaluation Officer, and also Brianna Mattis, who is an Evaluation Associate. We can go to the next slide. Also providing support to the EYC team and all of our funded partners is the center's communications team. I will do a brief introduction of this team, and later on, a member of their team will be taking us through some of the EYC branding and the communication component. So we have Akita Marie Williams, who is the Managing Director of Communications, Samantha Garcia, Communications Officer, Katie Pacini, a Communications Officer, and Cynthia Moreno, a Communications Officer. Next are a few members of our insurance and finance team members. So we have Veronica Stahl, General Compliance Analyst, Lucas Cole, an Associate Controller, and Keith Wilson, a grant accountant. And so this team provides support to our funded partners in making sure that their insurance requirements are met. And they also provide support around financial compliance, payment, and financial reporting. And later on in today's presentation, we will dive more deeply into those topics. So at this time, we will take a quick look at our agenda. Okay, so we started off with a welcome, and we really hope that you feel welcome and that you're able to be present for all the information that will be shared today. We will share a little bit of program background, giving you some history of the program and where we're headed. We'll also introduce you to cohort partners. In addition, we will cover the contract agreement process, insurance requirements. We'll do an overview of the grant requirements. We'll talk about our communication strategy, and of course, there will be time for Q&A. In addition to the formal Q&A times, we encourage you to place your questions into the chat at any point in this webinar, and we will be sure to get to them. So at this time, I'm going to pass it over to Palvinder to take us through some program background.
Thank you so much, Shira, for kicking us off. And I'll go ahead and share a bit more about Elevate Youth California and, a little bit about the background. So as shared in our request for applications, Elevate Youth California, funding comes from Proposition 64, and it's important to highlight the background. So Proposition 64 legalized adult use of cannabis here in the state of California, and also created new taxes on the cultivation and sale of marijuana. The revenue goes into the California Marijuana Tax Fund, and a certain percentage, 60%, is allocated to the Youth Education Prevention Early Intervention and Treatment Account, or as many folks might know, YAPETA, depending on how you pronounce that acronym. And these funds are dispersed to the Department of Healthcare Services for youth programs aimed to educate and prevent harm from substance use disorder. And, it's really important to also acknowledge that this program specifically focuses on communities that have been disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. And I will pass it over to Jessica Fielding, who is going to be sharing a bit more about the funding stream, and congratulate you all. So Jessica.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Palvinder. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jessica, and I am the section chief of the program and policy section within the Prevention and Youth Services branch at the Department of Healthcare Services. And really, on behalf of our department and on behalf of our director, congratulations for being selected for this round of funding. We truly could not do this without our partners at the center. So a big kudos to Palvinder, Matt, and just really the entire team. I do want to mention that we do have a Prop 64 meeting that is open to all, where we make decisions on how the funding for Proposition 64 will actually be dispersed, in addition to Elevate Youth California decisions. So I'm going to place that link into the chat box, but it really is just congratulations to all of the new individuals and then those that are returning for this round as well. Thanks so much, Palvinder.
Of course. Thank you, Jessica. We are grateful for this partnership with this Department of Healthcare Services. It really is a partnership in determining how do we work together to be the administrator of this contract and really implement the Elevate Youth California portfolio with all of our funded partners. So thank you. We'll go on to the next slide. So before we get into all of the logistics, I think it's really important to ground ourselves into understanding and just a reminder of what we're looking at for this program. So, this slide has our overall program goal for Elevate Youth California. You'll see that, that we're grounded in social justice youth development, looking to support a statewide network of organizations working on youth substance use disorder prevention, education, and early intervention startup activities. And then again, the focus population, those who have been disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs in both low-income urban and rural areas throughout California. And again, really honing in on impacting policy, systems, and environmental change. We really are looking for programs to be youth-led, youth-centered, and ensuring that young people are at the core of the program to impact policy, systems, and environmental change. So if there's anything that you take away from this webinar today and the orientation, it's really to take a moment to pause and ensure that the work plan you designed, the budget that you've submitted really aligns with what we're sharing today. This should not be new news. It was shared in the RFA on our RFA webinars, and it has been communicated by our team, but understanding the funder grantee power dynamics, we really want to take a moment to pause and ensure that all of our funded partners understand the overarching program goal. And again, that is to be youth-led, youth-centered, and to really look at impacting policy systems and environmental change. You'll hear me repeat that throughout today's orientation, but that is really to hit home and ensure that you understand that your organization has a moment to pause to see if there's changes to your work plan that need to be made. We will be looking, we're open to meeting with you. We can address any sort of questions via email, but really ensuring that you take a moment to pause and really ensure that before you hit the ground running, that you are planning out a program for these next 3 years that aligns with our overarching program. We'll go to the next slide, and I wanted to dive a bit deeper into social justice youth development and what that looks like in action. So Elevate Youth California is a youth social justice mentoring and peer support program. So as you might remember in the RFA and the application that you were required to select, in addition to the policy systems and environmental change component, there was an option to do adult mentoring or peer-to-peer mentoring. So that is also another component. And some of the examples of what this looks like, social justice youth development, again, is really ensuring that young people are centered in the work to ensure that they are the ones who are addressing, policy change work, activism, advocacy. So it can be youth-led organizing or student activism. We've got some programs already that are looking to make change in school discipline policies, understanding that when young people are penalized for, potentially bringing substances to school or, something else that it results in substance or disciplinary policies or disciplinary action, realizing that young people are being asked to spend time outside of school. So what are they going to be doing in that sort of instance? When they're in school, oftentimes that is probably one of the safer spaces that they can have. And so when we're then penalizing them and having them not attend school, if they're being suspended or expelled, it's not providing some of those better outcomes for them. So we've had some programs that have looked at impacting school disciplinary policies. Other organizations have noticed that some of the disciplinary policies are embedded in sort of racist policies where, in some school districts, there's concerns around how, haircuts can be given, and knowing that in certain cultural communities, that designs and haircuts might be a thing, and some school districts have shown for that to be a distraction. So again, understanding how do we, again, ensure that the young people are embedded in the systems change work and the advocacy that they're doing, because if they are engaged and we are listening to them, they'll definitely be more engaged and leading that effort. Some of our partners have done campaigns to address school or community concerns. Most recently, or more recently, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, in Delano, there was a buffer zone that one of our community partners, addressed, and ensuring that there was still safe space for young people for where substances were being sold. And so just ensuring that again is implemented. So going to city council meetings and ensuring that those young people's voices were heard. And again, this was something that the young people themselves wanted to do. They saw that people, that these businesses were able to sell within a certain distance of their school, and seeing that young people were able to go ahead and attain substances from them, they wanted to impact and make that change. Other efforts have been to change a social condition through public policy, whether this is increased funding to youth programming or, addressing, media campaigns or other aspects, really looking again to sort of acknowledge what sort of change can be made through either public policy, systems change work, and it really, that can be at any level. It can be at a school, it can be at a city or a county level, it can be at a statewide level as well. We have a number of examples and that we can continue to share, but when we talk about social justice youth development in action, this is what we're really talking about: how are young people empowered, trained, and supported to make an impact in policy systems and environmental change. The next component that we'll talk about, and you'll hear about in Elevate Youth California, is really substance use disorder prevention. And we want to make sure that we highlight two pieces. One is that prevention encompasses activities that promote healthy behaviors, reduces risk, and builds protective factors. Something that we really are looking to do is acknowledge what communities need. What are the direct needs of communities and the young people that you're working with? And that'll look different. That'll look different for tribal communities and Native communities that are located in Humboldt County, and very different for urban youth who are Black and Brown urban youth who are located in urban Sacramento. Acknowledging that prevention looks different for communities is really important for us. And one of the key aspects is that those culturally competent, the linguistic services, all of that is really critical to ensure that your organization is providing and being mindful of. We're not really looking for you to implement a sort of a particular proven prevention practice. We're looking for you to see how does that prevention, evidence-based or community-driven practice, how does that work for the community you're working with? You know, is there a evidence-based practice and prevention that you see is really great? And then how are you tweaking it to ensure that it's working for your community? Is it a new community-driven practice that you, prevention practice that you are looking to see because, you know, you're understanding the needs of your young people and the community that you're working with and wanting to be able to do that? So again, this can encompass, you know, informational and education prevention, but it can also include opportunities that young people who have been disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs that they have never received before because of the policy and systems that are in place right now that have not always been in their benefit. So how do we provide, you know, young people resources to higher education, to educational resources to allow them to be, you know, succeeding or excelling in school? How do we provide for safe spaces outside of school? All of those aspects are reducing risk and building protective factors to increase life outcomes for them. You know, one of the things I think early on in sort of the sort of approach to traditional prevention practices, and the thing that I want to acknowledge is that this is really community driven. You, as the community leads, as the ones who reflect and represent the communities you come from, have an opportunity to see what is the best strategy for the youth and young people that you're working with. So again, I know I'm emphasizing this quite a bit, but I think it's really important for all of our community partners to be grounded in this. The other aspect is harm reduction. We understand that young people are using substances. They might have already started. And instead of focusing on practices that don't necessarily work for their benefit, or on zero tolerance, or sort of not working with young people who are using, you know, we really want to ensure that we are grounded in harm reduction as well. We want to ensure that young people who are using, they have the knowledge and education to be able to reduce at-risk, moderate, or high-risk behaviors, you know, and ensure that they're not misusing substances. It's important for us to acknowledge the systems and policies that have not always benefited low-income communities of color, tribal communities. The sort of policies and practices of our nation overall, of our state, over the many decades has resulted in this. And so we have to be mindful of that. So we aren't looking to judge young people in their use or not use. And that is one of the critical pieces that I want to highlight, is that we encourage you to include harm reduction in the work that you're doing. If you encounter young people who are using, to pause and also not judge them and ensure that other young people aren't either. So, you know, I want to bring this in, and we'll be sharing a number of resources on prevention practices, harm reduction. We're happy to talk about it. We'll have a number of technical assistance sessions in the future as well. But this is definitely something that I wanted to highlight as well, because we sometimes see that we bring our own lens into those work. As someone who grew up as a young adult, where my parents really focused education, I completely acknowledge at a young age, I did judge people who were using substances. But as I grew older, I also was able to recognize the systems and policies that may have led to that use. So while my views have changed over the last decade or two, it is important to acknowledge that young people may fit into that same bucket, that we aren't perpetuating cycles of stigma that continue to create gaps amongst young people who may be using and not using, but really allowing for there to be safe spaces and increase and reducing harm for those who are already using. So we'll go into the next slide, and I can sort of cover a little bit of the guiding value, a few of the guiding values for our program in Elevate Youth California. we're really, again, looking to invest in youth empowerment, leadership, and development. This really is an opportunity to reinvest in young people, Black and Brown youth, tribal youth, Native youth, low-income youth, 2S LGBTQ+ youth, and the list continues, that have been disproportionately impacted by the policies and systems that, ultimately, were in place during the war on drugs. And so we're looking for all of our funded partners to implement programs through the cultural lens of the impacted community. Whether that's culturally competent, thinking about the cultural needs that your community has. So we know folks love to break bread. So, organizations and partners who are ensuring that there's a component of breaking bread or sharing a meal in some of their work. Others who ensure that there's linguistic services available, especially when family members are engaged in the work as well. And ultimately, looking for the promotion of population level impacts through policy systems and environmental change. Our biggest hope is that we work with young people, at the individual level. All of our community partners are going to be doing that. They'll be understanding their resilience, the sort of individual factors that result in substance use or prevention. We're able to also look at the interpersonal piece of, whether they have family members who have problematic substance use, whether there's trauma or violence, adverse childhood experiences that result in that. How do we ensure that we're looking at that level as well? And then at the community level, what is the sort of school connectedness and the environment that they're facing in school? What about the connectedness in their community? How do we look to bolster that? Do they have access to health and social services? And also what is the availability of and access to substances? All of these factors at these three levels, and then the final level of the societal or structural, what are those marketing practices and social norms? Is it considered to be cool to do drugs, or is it not considered to be? What sort of marketing practices do various substance businesses do to target and have in place to target young people? The understanding of colonization and intergenerational trauma, stigma and discrimination, income and housing policies, all of these impact young people and individuals of our communities. And how do we look at all of these different levels to really implement a program and a support to ensure that young people are reducing their use of substances or safely engaging in it, and we're not entering into substance misuse. And additionally, how are we preventing overall young people to just delay the onset of substance use? So really, we have an opportunity to ensure that these are, again, relevant to the young people and the young adults that we're working with. And so we encourage you to think about it at all levels of the societal or the socio-ecological ecosystem. So at all levels of this ecosystem. So as you think about your program, as you think about what the next 3 years are looking like, we encourage you, again, to really embed and think critically about social justice youth development, substance use disorder prevention and education, and policy systems change, and really thinking about how each aspect of the ecosystem impacts the members of the community that you're working with. Quite a bit there, but we're going to continue on with this last slide. And so, as I mentioned earlier, that when you had applied, you were required to select youth activism for policy systems and environmental change. So on each of your work plans, you had selected a specific policy systems and environmental change goal. Some of the organizations may have put something in place now, but really wanted young people to go ahead and shape what that goal was going to look like. And so that's totally fine. And we actually encourage you at all times throughout the program to revisit that goal. You'll be required to do so when you look at your quarterly progress report and look to submit that. But really ensuring that the goal that you have in place is something that young people want to work on. The last thing we're asking you to do is stick to what you put on the work plan as the goal. And especially if young people are like, we want to pivot we might have said that, your organization might have submitted a goal without young people's, without their input, but now is really an opportunity to see if there needs to be some change there. And then you have the option of either doing either or both mentorship or relationship building and or peer-led support and leadership programs. So these are really the ways that we're really looking to engage in the Elevate Youth California program. And so these are our implementation strategies. Now we'll shift a little bit into our funded partners. We are, as you all know, we are so excited to welcome 61 projects and organizations into our cohort 4 standard track. Currently, to date, we have made 246 awards to community-based organizations, and we currently have 225 funded partners, and the number differs a little bit because some of our round 1 partners who are ending their awards, their first award that started at the beginning of the pandemic, are ending at the end of this month, and they had the opportunity to apply for round 4 funding for this specific track. And so in addition to the standard track that focuses on policy systems and environmental change, we also have a capacity building track that focuses on strengthening the operational, programmatic, financial, or organizational structure of their organization. And so this is, an intentional track built out to bolster emerging and grassroots organizations who might need to build on their organizational infrastructure a bit more to further the work that they're doing. And then our innovation track. And this particular track focuses also on policy systems and environmental change, but they do have an additional evaluation component in their award. And all of our funded partners, along with more information, can be found on our website, elevateyouthca.org. And also on our website, we can, next slide, please, we can find a list of the funded partners. I will let you know that right now we're still in the process of updating your cohort. So you will find that very likely in the next week or so. But if you wanted to see all of the funded partners, you can go down to the news section. There's a PDF or a document that lists all of the funded partners, the counties that they're going to be working in, as well as a brief project statement. You can find organizations that have already been funded as well through the Program Impact tab. Each of the cohorts are listed under that specific tab. And don't worry, just in about a week, yours will be added there as well. And lastly, in regards to funded partners, we wanted to go ahead and share sort of the coverage that we've been able to reach across the 4 rounds. So with our rounds 1 through 4 of funded partners, we're able to get to 53 California counties. So with your cohort, we have expanded the reach of Elevate Youth California's, and we'll expand the reach of the program to have activities in 53 counties across the state. So we just have a small gap left, and we're really intentionally looking to build that out as well with our upcoming capacity building opportunity. To date, Elevate Youth California, in partnership with the Department of Healthcare Services, has awarded $189.22 million. And again, as I shared earlier, amongst 246 awards. I know this slide is really hard to read, but we wanted to make sure it was ADA compliant. And so we have the table as well as the map. And don't worry, we'll go ahead and share that. It'll be on our website as well. It's actually, the map is already on our website, so you can see the coverage across the state in a bigger format on our website. And so I'll go ahead and pause there for any questions. And I think I may already see one in the chat. And if I miss any others, feel free to add them again. But there was a question that mentions, can we apply for future funding tracks after this cohort? This is a really good question. So in terms of current eligibility, each organization is only able to hold 1 active Elevate Youth California award. So acknowledging that this is a large award, up to $1 million over 3 years, your organization would be eligible to apply at the end of the 3 years for an award. So since you're part of cohort 4, if I'm doing my math correctly, you would be able to reapply, I believe, in cohort 7 think if that might be correct, if not cohort 8. So don't quote me on that right now. But essentially after the 3 years, you would be able to apply for that. And again, as I mentioned earlier, this is continuous funding from the state of California. And so we do anticipate that this program, Elevate Youth California, will continue to be supported. And so there's another question that asks about clarifying timeline for updating our work plans. No, we don't have an exact timeline at this point, but what I would say is to definitely look to do that within the first month or 2 months. I do want to acknowledge that the end of the year is coming up, so I'm not going to ask you all to submit it by December 30th. But as you're in the planning phases, I know the initial sort of piece, and we'll get to this a little bit later, is really around sort of getting your insurance in place, which we'll cover in a little bit, ensuring that your contract is signed and getting that first payment. Some organizations may be dependent on that first payment to go ahead and hire new staff. All of that, we'll cover that in a bit. But we want to acknowledge that. So there's a little bit of flexibility there. As we continue on after this orientation in our next session, when we cover our reporting templates, we'll have an opportunity to share more about the work plans there. But if you already see some changes, you're more than welcome to reach out to us and submit those. We'll have our email at the end of the slide deck as well. So there's an opportunity there. I do see a hand raised.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Marty.
Hi, thank you. This is Marty from South County of Santa Clara County in Gilroy, an agency called CARAS in South County. My question to you is, does Youth Elevate, do they also fund like a program that's like a youth hub to provide greater services, like a youth hub? To invite youth to come to a place and they can get a laundry list of supportive services. Secondly, because I noticed your website, it said San Jose. There was a house there in San Jose that you guys did, or it's a program for housing. Does the program, does Elevate also provide funding to build out a youth resource center?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So we have funded, so I think it's going to be really, I think, a little bit of nuance to your question, which is, how would you define a youth hub or youth resource center? What I can share in short is that we do fund a few youth centers. So I know in our previous list of partners, and I'm not remembering right now, we just came back from our all staff retreat, but we do fund a number of different youth centers across the state. So organizations, so one I can list off the top of my head is the Sacramento Youth Center. I know there's a few others. We do also fund collaboratives, so organizations who work as a collaborative. Of course, the lead agency did apply, and then there is a coalition of organizations, so that was also included in the RFA. In terms of sort of a hub of services or sort of an on-site of services, I think we can definitely chat more. So Marty, if you want to email me, we can definitely chat further about that and just go cover sort of where you're at. We can revisit the work plan, that sort of thing. There might be some more questions that require one-on-one, and that's totally fine. We're definitely open to that as well. I see another hand raised.
Hi everyone, this is Celestial from HLA from Senior Area. I have a two-part question. The first question is, I think I saw in the RFA that there is like a Elevate Youth California convene, I think maybe. So I was wondering like, when is that convene?
Yeah.
Just so that like I have it on my calendar because I'm that kind of girl. And then the second question is, I know that if the funding is up to $1 million over 3 years, so I was wondering like, what does a, I guess, incomplete report look like, or what does like an incomplete project look like, so that us as grantees are like avoiding that scenario?
Yeah, so those are two questions that we're going to get to. So I'm going to hold off on the youth convening question because we're going to get there. And what I will tell you is that it's still to be determined. We don't have it defined yet. I love the emojis, but we're still in the process of determining when that'll be. And we'll share a little bit more about that later, but we will let you know with advanced notice. So don't worry, it's not like we're going to say, hey, we have a convening in 2 weeks. We expect you all to come to Sacramento or to come to this place. So we'll share a little bit more about that towards the end. And then also about the reporting, we'll cover that in an upcoming reporting template, a webinar where we'll dive into the actual template itself and provide some examples there as well. So what I'll just say is that as long as you are making progress towards the activities and goal that you listed in your work plan, as long as you are communicating with us, if you need to modify your work plan, we can talk about that. Again, as long as you fill out all the sections of the report, that's overarchingly, a complete report to some extent. And what I will also say is that our team, and again, we're going to cover this a little bit more, our team reviews internally all reports. So we're trying to get up to a speed of being able to respond back to all of our partners to let them know that if there's any questions or errors that we saw in their report within about a few weeks of submission. So after your first quarter, again, we'll cover more of this later, but know that we review all of your quarterly progress reports. Anything that you submit to the center, we do review it, and we do review it internally. You might be wondering with a lot of partners, how are they doing this? It's because I am blessed to be working with an amazing team of individuals who are really committed to this work. And so it's definitely a team effort as well. So with that, we'll go ahead and shift into the next section. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Gerald.
Thank you, Palvinder. I'll be covering the contract agreement process, and Veronica Stahl, the General Compliance Analyst, will be reviewing the Elevate Youth California funded partner insurance requirements. So the contract agreement process. I believe yesterday an email went out to almost everyone, except for about 5 organizations that went to the executive director or signatory included in the application, and they received an email from DocuSign with a link to your subcontract agreement. Please thoroughly review the agreement and then sign it to return it. The fully executed agreement will be returned to you by DocuSign for your records. You also receive an email from the center at Sierra Health Foundation via Trust Layer that will provide a list of combined insurance requirements from DHCS and the center. And this is going to get covered a little bit more later, but the first payment under this agreement is contingent on the execution of the subcontract agreement and receipt of all insurance compliance documents from the subcontractor. The center will then process payments once funding is received from DHCS. Payment 1 will be sent via ACH or check. We encourage partners to set up electronic payments. However, we understand that not all organizations may prefer electronic checks. While the preference is ACH, especially during these unprecedented times, if a check is required, we can work with partners. And then please review the ACH information and instructions in the grant agreement. Moving forward, I think Veronica will be stepping in to talk insurance requirements.
Thank you, Gerald. Welcome, everybody, and congratulations on the new partners, and congratulations again on the returning partners. So for the returning partners, you probably have heard this spiel before about the wonderful insurance requirements that are required for this project. But by now, you should have received a Trust Layer email that contains all the insurance requirements, along with the contract that you received through DocuSign, which also highlights the insurance requirements for this project. Next slide, please. Thank you. Again, I'm just going to go over high level. We need your standard commercial general liability, and within the commercial general liability, there are some components that are needed, as in products completed operations, personal and advertising. I would have to say that a lot of our insurance certificates that we do receive, they do come back incomplete because the primary and non-contributory endorsement is not included. And the endorsement can be in the form of an additional document that's attached to your overall insurance coverage, or we could also accept the actual language in the description of operations. And I will be more than happy to reach out to your insurance agent if you need this communicated, more precisely. Otherwise, if you just say primary and non-contributory, they'll understand what that means. Next slide, please. Regarding auto liability, we do get a lot of kickbacks where they say, well, I didn't utilize my car for this project. If that's a situation for you, please reach out to me and we could have conversations regarding why it's not applicable. And if it's not applicable, then we will go ahead and waive this requirement. Workers' comp, it's a state law. Anybody who has more than one employee is required to have workers' compensation. Professional liability, again, this is another requirement, and the claim is 1 million and 2 million aggregate. And next slide, please. Improper sexual contact and physical abuse insurance. I don't get a lot of kickback on this. I mean, it is a standard requirement, especially working with the youth. The cyber liability, you might have questions as far as, why would I need cyber liability if I don't contain personal information? Well, it's not only, in the event of discretionary information being released, but it's also with ransom. There has been an increase of ransomware being planted on your equipment, and this would help with the cost of that. And then the additional requirements, we like to have the agreement reflect the 2220080 project number. Also, if you have your insurance already on file, the certificate of insurance would be acceptable. However, you might want to reach out to your insurance agent and ask them if they can go ahead and reference that agreement number. But again, if it's already compliant where a lot of the returning partners are, then you won't need to reference it. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email address was listed also in TrustLayer, but if you'd like to call me, I will go ahead and put my number in the link. Thank you and congratulations again. And that is a sample.
Thank you, Veronica. We're going to go ahead and next move on to overview of grant requirements, as Veronica mentioned. And before we go to that, as she mentioned, she's always available. So if you have any questions, and again, we'll drop it in the chat about insurance, she is always willing to be available to chat with you, to be able to answer any questions over email around insurance requirements. I do encourage you all, now that nearly everyone has received their contract via DocuSign, to start acquiring the insurance if you haven't already. We have learned that it does take some time, and we'll actually go into the next slide, because we'll need to make sure that insurance certificates are all received and completed before we can make that first payment. So this Elevate Youth California is a deliverable-based payment schedule. The first payment is upon execution of the subcontract. So as soon as your organization signs and ours does as well, that'll execute the contract and also ensure that there's completion of all compliance components. So that would include the insurance. So as we mentioned in the RFA, and also when the award announcement went out, that there is the insurance requirement. And so again, we ask you to get started on that as early as possible. I know there's a number of competing deadlines that your organization's probably dealing with as we near sort of the holidays and time off that that many of us will be taking next week and also in December. So again, if you are looking to get that first payment, we will need certificates for all insurance to be completed and secured before we can make that payment. The second payment will be upon receipt and approval of all of your report. So progress reports 1 through 4. So every quarter you're required. We'll cover a little bit of that on this call, but we'll have a separate call to go over the template and what that entails. in your end of year report and your year one financial report, and also a detailed expenditure listing. We'll cover all of that in a future call. But what I am going to say is that as I shared earlier, we do review all of these documents, here at the center, and ensure that you're provided some feedback where needed. So you'll have an opportunity to submit a budget modification at the end of year one. If for some reason, and I know this happens quite often because for some reason, when applying, everyone's lists that their start date is November 16th. It's the day that they receive the award. But we all know that there is limited time from the time of announcement to the start date. So there may be some delays, and also some time for planning that initially takes place. So while most organizations sort of think that they're going to hit the ground running, we do know that there is a planning phase, and we do encourage that in the beginning to be able to reassess, because as a former director of development for a community-based organization, I do know that sometimes we tend to be more ambitious in our outcomes and what we're submitting in at the time of the application than what we may be able to realistically achieve. So what we want to make sure is that you are really looking to have realistic and achievable outcomes for this program. So all of those requirements are going to be due at the end of year one. We'll take some time to review them and then approve them, and then we'll go ahead and process your second payment. The same thing will happen at the end of year two. You'll submit the next 4 progress reports, your end of year report. You won't submit your cumulative final report at this time, but you will submit your year 2 financial report and a detailed expenditure listing. So apologies for that error. We'll correct it before the slide goes out. And then at that time, we'll review all of them at the end of year 2. And within a few weeks, probably after reviewing and approving, you'll get your last payment as well. And then at the very end, you will be required to submit in your last year the final deliverables, which we'll cover on the reporting schedule. I see 2 hands raised. So if you're okay with it, I'm going to continue on to a few more slides that cover where we're at. If you can drop your questions in the chat, that would be super helpful. And then I'll just mention if my team can answer some of the questions in the chat. There's a question about if you need to change your contract. Who do I email? Email us at Elevate Youth CA. For any reason, if you have any questions, I will share our emails at the very end. Always include me, send an email to me, and then our elevateyouthca.org email. My team is going to go ahead and drop those in the chat right now. We'll cover all the questions about allowables, non-allowable modifications, anything and everything that you may have a question for. We'll look to answer that. Email is usually the best, and then we can sort of go from there of seeing if we need to schedule a call. But I'm going to move through some of the next slides. One of the questions here is around deliverable based, and do we need to have that tied to our GL? So you don't necessarily need to have the deliverables attached to your GLs. What we're essentially saying, and I think there is a little bit of a difference. So instead of doing reimbursement payment schedule, we're essentially looking to do it based off of deliverables. However, it's only a deliverable based payment schedule. So your payments will be made based off the deliverables you are submitting. However, your financial report and your detailed expenditure listing will be the actual expenditures that you have. So I'm not asked, so, it's not a deliverable based payment necessarily. So not that, progress report 1, you go ahead and say, I'm going to charge, it was $25,000 for that. Progress report 2 was $25,000. That's not what we're asking in the financial report. We're asking the exact expenditure that's listed in your budget. So your budget will be what your budget looked like will be very similar to what the financial report looks like. And then your detailed expenditure listing will be your actual details of how you came to all those buckets. Well, we're going to cover that in just a little bit, but again, it is a deliverable-based payment schedule and not a deliverable-based payment. So a little bit of clarification there. There's another question around first-year payment, so I'll cover that right now too. Is the first-year payment a percentage? It is actually your first-year payment. So the first payment is going to be your first year's payment that's included in the contract. So it's included what you had on the budget. Again, we know that we're going to make the first payment as quickly as possible upon the execution of the subcontract and the insurance requirements being completed. So that'll cover the first year. So it'll be what the budget that you've listed on your in your application, or if there was a modification needed. So it's what's included in the contract. The amount is listed on your contract as well. So there is a section that lists that first payment amount. Your second and third payments will be both your second and third year budgets that are listed as well. That's a good question. So that allows for a lot of clarity, because folks are usually like, well, how much are you doing? But yes, we'll reflect it to the original budget that is included in your application or in your contract. We'll go to the next slide. So a brief overview of all of our requirements. So we will have those quarterly progress reports I mentioned, end of year report. So we may look to do the training before the end of the year. So we'll share that within the next week. So we'll determine on our end when that will be. I know some organizations have found it helpful to have it in the beginning of the year, but others are like, well, if I need to collect data, I need to know what I need to collect, and it's helpful to know now. So we'll go ahead and share some of that information sooner rather than later. We'll do a walkthrough of those quarterly progress reports and the submission, the same thing for the end of year report. That'll be due at the end of each program year. So what's going to happen is that next October, November, you'll hear from us and say, it's the end of the program year. You have about a month. You have a month to complete most of the requirements. And so typically you will have every year and on December 15th, your quarterly progress report for the last one for that year. So next year, when it comes to December 15th, 2023, you'll have quarterly progress report 4 due. You'll have an end of year report due. That's for your first year. That covers the first year's activities. You'll have an annual financial report due, and also your detailed expenditure listing. When all of those are completed, so quarterly progress reports 1 through 4, as well as the 3 other items, we'll go ahead and review them, approve them, make sure everything's squared away, and then make your next payment. And then finally, at the end of the program, and that'll also happen in the same thing at the end of year 2. And then in year 3, the same thing will happen. And then we'll also add in a cumulative final report, and the quarterly progress report, the end of year report, and the cumulative final report also includes the quantitative, qualitative measures as well. So that'll happen. I would just remember, in terms of the requirements for this program, it is quarterly. So every quarter you'll have a progress report due, and annually December 15th is going to be your December 1st and December 15th will be your bigger due dates of the end of program year reports and requirements that are due. Okay, there is a question. I'm gonna get to the budget questions in a little bit. So we'll go to the next slide, and I'll just walk through a little bit about the quarterly progress report and the reports that we have. So as I mentioned, all of our partners are required to submit quarterly progress reports. There'll be a separate webinar on this. We'll show you the template. We'll walk through it. We'll allow you to have time for questions. We'll share some tools that we've drafted to support you on this. And really, the goal of the progress report is to capture the diversity of young people that you're working with. It's to allow us to see the programmatic activities that you're having, and also your progress towards your policy and systems change goal. We really want to be able to capture this data to share it with stakeholders. It's important and critical. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is actually the largest prevention program that is community driven, probably across the nation. I don't know any other prevention program that has invested $189 million where prevention is led by community-based organizations. So with that in mind, there's a lot of eyes on this funding. It is public funding. We are, we have a number of stakeholders and folks that would like to know about this, but ultimately we want to share about the successes of the program to see how we can support you. So this is an opportunity for you to reflect on the last quarter, to share some of the data about the number of youth you've reached, the programmatic activities you've had. But then there's also a narrative section that allows you to share the challenges, your solutions, whether you need us to support on some of those solutions, whether there would be technical assistance that will allow you to be supported. We're really looking to really be in partnership with you, and partnership for us means listening and to be able to shift course where we need to as well. So we are we review these, as I've mentioned, and really look to allow them to support the work that you're doing as well. In addition, I mentioned on the next slide, we'll cover the end of year report. This is going to be due to, next slide, please. This is going to be due annually to the center December 1st of each year. It'll start next year, so you don't have to submit it in a few weeks. It'll have both narrative questions and some quantitative questions. This report was really designed to take some of the questions from the quarterly progress report and only ask them annually. So for example, instead of asking you quarterly whether you completed a youth listening session, we'll look to ask you that annually, since you're only required to do it annually. So again, really an opportunity to sort of reflect on the last year and to be able to see how the first year, the second year of the program is going. And we have found this to be really beneficial for our partners as well, to be able to see the progress they made. It's a long-term program, a 3-year program. And so it's always helpful to sort of pause, reflect, and see how things are going. Additionally, we'll also have, next slide, please, the annual financial report due. It'll be due on an annual basis. So we'll review the financial reporting template. It's also going to be connected with an approved budget. You'll show your line item spending within the reporting period. So within the first year, so November 16, 2022 to November 15, 2023. And then again, you'll need to keep supporting documentation for expenditures for the detailed expenditure listing that's requested. For those who are like, keep hearing phrases of things that I might not be as familiar with because your finance team takes care of it, don't worry. We're going to have a separate call and training that allows you to have some support on that as well. And so we'll look to do that too. And I'm going to cover at a glance what the annual financial report looks like. This is, one from our round one partners, because it has their dates on it. But essentially, this is what that financial report would look like. It'll be your budget that's on file. And actually, right before the time period, we'll actually reach out to you all to see if a budget modification needs to be made. I'm going to cover budget modifications, in just a bit, but it'll give you an opportunity to sort of reflect. So line item of what you've included in your budget and what your actuals were. So in year one, you'll just complete the first 2 columns of year one data. In year 2, you'll add on year 2. And in the final sort of submission, you'll have the 3rd year completed as well. Next slide, please. And the last piece I mentioned was the cumulative final report. This is at the end. So when it comes to November or after November 15th, 2025, we'll go ahead and share before that, we'll share the template, and then you'll be required to submit this, in December of 2025. It also has quantitative questions, some narrative questions, and a financial component that will look very similar to what we just shared. Now, your contract, as well as on this next slide, we have a date of the reports, the due dates of all your reports. So you'll note that the majority of reports you'll have a month before it goes out, or before you have to submit it to us here at the center. So you're thinking about your first progress report due. The starting date of this award is yesterday. So I had checked my calendar to see, is that correct? So November 16th, so yesterday, all the way to February 15th. And then in March 15th, you're going to be required to submit that first progress report. That'll continue to happen. So if you're someone who's like, it's really helpful for me to have these dates on my calendar, add it in now. Every quarter, you can create a reoccurring event. That's when you'll have deliverables due. And the only time we alter from that is at the final submission. Those will be due December 8th. 2025. But other than that, usually a good sort of peace of mind is March, June, September, and December. Those are typically when all of your reports will be due. And again, we'll be sharing these slides so you can pull from this one. We also share this particular timeline on your quarterly progress report. The first tab has the due date, so that way at a glance you can always refer back to it there, and if you don't want to pull up your contract or these specific slides. Okay. Next, sort of pieces about report submission. So we'll share more about this later, but at this time you will be required to submit nearly all of the requirements via email. So when in doubt, just email me and the Elevate Youth CA email. And typically that is where either myself or our team will be able to provide you with support. And so we want to make it easier instead of going to different people within our team, all of that. Most of the review and approvals will occur by me, but then our team does support on other aspects of ensuring that we can support you in a timely manner as well. Again, we'll cover this at a later point. And then budget modifications. So I know a lot of folks are going to be starting to think about budget modifications because you started factoring in for new hires probably on day one, and it might take some time to hire them out, all that sort of stuff. That's okay. So we will recognize that costs may have changed since your application. You may submit a budget modification request to more closely align with the actual costs and expenditures. So, if you've recognized that, you've had some staff transitions and maybe you listed a particular staff member's name on a budget, or you decided that you might need a different title for a staff member, you can submit a budget modification if you're having some delays in terms of the on start of the program or the program activities. That's okay as well. If you determine that you actually forgot something on your budget, whatever it is, again, the key piece is that a new line item or a line item increasing or decreasing increasing by more than 10% will be what triggers a budget modification. So if you again have a new line item or you have an increase of a line item by more than 10%, you will need to submit a budget modification. And so we'll share that template so you can reach out to us and we'll go ahead and share the template. Again, I would just refer back to those two pieces because that's really when it's triggered. If you're underspending by a certain amount, that's okay. We can get to that when we get to the end of the first year. However, please do not expend to any new line items that are not on your budget unless they have been approved. The last thing we want you to do is believe that something might be allowable and then it is not. We don't have a list of detailed allowables or non-allowables. So there is some back and forth where you might ask a question and we will get an answer for you. So we don't have an exhaustive list, but when in doubt, always reach out to us for anything that is not already included. Yes, so the 10% is each individual on the budget, and it's not for the budget category. Typically we do the budget category, but for our program, because this is a much larger funding amount, and some of the organizations did receive up to $1 million, or there's, tens of thousands of dollars on a line item, we do ask that it is 10% of each specific line item. So 10% increase for a staff member, that'll also trigger a budget modification as well. And again, just reach out to us for the template and all of that. And yes, we will also you'll be receiving a copy of the PowerPoint presentation as well as the recording of this webinar as well after we conclude. We'll go to the next slide because I want to make sure we have enough time to sort of get through all of our pieces. That in-person convenings was mentioned earlier. We are going to continue to have in-person and virtual convenings throughout the contract period. Oh, and I apologize, there's a typo here. It says 2024 on the last one. So all throughout the reporting or throughout this program, we'll have convenings and it'll be a mix of monthly networking sessions. So actually in January, you'll be invited to join a networking session. We'll probably host the first one or two with just your cohort. So the funded partners on this call, the 61 organizations that have been funded through round 4. And then we'll look to invite you to the larger space with all of our funded partners. That happens usually, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the first Thursday. We'll share more information about that as well in the upcoming few weeks. So you can mark that on your calendar. It typically occurs at the same time every month so far it's been on the first Thursday. We may need to shift that a little bit, but that way you have advanced notice. And what we're looking to do is actually send out a calendar for at least the activities that'll happen in the first quarter. So these particular convenings will be with funded partners, specifically from the Elevate Youth California program. We'll also do technical assistance webinars. We'll do office hours before the reports are due. There is a number of different virtual areas of support that we look to host. So through networking sessions, technical assistance webinars, office hours for reporting, those are just a few of those areas. And so we really are looking to support our partners. I am happy to share, and I don't have a date yet, but we will be looking to do regional convenings with our funded partners, knowing that we have 225 partners. It might be hard to get everybody here in Sacramento, and we want to be mindful of making that space worth it. And so we'll be looking to coordinate regional convenings in 2023. Again, I don't have a date yet, but we will share that as soon as we do. And additionally, I'm happy to share that we will also be hosting a in-person youth convening in 2023. I also do not have a date for that, but we are looking to secure it. We are looking to have youth from across the state in this program come up to Sacramento. There is a number of logistics involved, especially post-pandemic and sort of as we shift into a new normal. So with 225 partners, you can imagine that if we had a few youth plus a staff member or two from every organization join, let's say we even said 5 people from an organization, maybe 3 to 4 staff or 3 to 4 young people and 1 to 2 staff members, that would quickly get us to over 1,000 individuals. And that's a fairly large gathering for us to think through right now. So we will have information on all of our convenings, both in person and virtual, as quickly as possible. We are looking to send an update, if not before the end of the year, in early January. And the last thing I'll mention in sort of the requirements is the youth listening sessions. So every organization is required to host a minimum of 1 youth listening session each year. This is an opportunity to go ahead and get feedback on strategy and project implementation. A youth listening session can be considered to be like a focus group or a listening circle. Where you might have a topic at hand with a slate of questions and really allowing for young people's voices to be heard. We have seen organizations use the planning phase as a great time to implement youth listening sessions. We're thinking about this as our program design. What do you think? Here are activities that we're thinking to have. What is your input? We've seen other organizations receive that input for the policy or systems change work, asking them direct questions to get them to the specific goal. What are things that they have seen in their community that have negatively impacted them? What would they like to see more of, or what change would they like to see more of? What policies are they interested in? At what sort of level? Really, again, allowing you to get to sort of that feedback from young people and ensuring, again, that their voice is centered. This is not the only thing that allows for you to get feedback on your strategy and implementation from young people, but it is one way to do that. And so you are required to host 1 youth listening session a year, and that'll be that question will be asked on the end of year report. So with that, I'm going to pause for questions before we share our last bit of information, our last sort of key piece, and then close us out. Are there any questions at this time? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and pass it over. And today we have our communications colleague, Samantha Garcia, who will be sharing more information about the communications overview.
Well, hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm Samantha Garcia, pronoun she, her. I'm a member of the communications team for Sierra Health Foundation and the center, and I have the great privilege of working with many of our program partners like you. I want to add my congratulations on your grant. We're so excited about and grateful for your partnership. And we know that you're going to be doing and are already doing incredible work in your communities. And we're super eager to partner with you in various communications, using various communication tools to uplift you, your work, your communities. We recognize that your successes and stories are your own, but we do sometimes have or seek opportunities to help people understand the power of the Elevate Youth California network that's happening across the state. So in both cases, we invite you to please share with us your stories, any media coverage that we can help highlight, tag us on your social media posts, let us know if you're willing to be a spokesperson for your work when we do have those opportunities to talk about the collective work across the state. And to make this easy, we'll very soon be sharing with you a toolkit that we put together for partners that hopefully answers many of your questions about how to talk about your partnership with Elevate Youth California. Actually, next slide, please. So this toolkit will include logo and branding guidelines, including that you do not have to use the Elevate Youth California logo in your materials, though you are welcome to, and who to reach out to with questions about branding. You'll also see some common language about the program, some social media and press release tools. We can go to the next slide, please. So our partners at the state have released a public announcement about this round of awards already, and we've shared your cohort list on the Elevate Youth California website and on social media, but we know that you may also want to make an announcement about your award, and we hope that the tools that we're going to provide in this toolkit will be helpful in that endeavor. We're also happy to review materials, and we ask that you send your press release drafts to our team for review. This is primarily just to make sure you have no questions about how to talk about the funding of your grant or how your work fits in with the work that's happening across the state. And probably most importantly, it gives us a heads up to keep an eye out for news of your grant so that we can uplift in our newsletters, on social media, etc. So you can reach the communications team with questions at communications@shfcenter.org, which I'll place that email address in the chat, and it's also all over the toolkit. You'll see in that toolkit also a funding statement that we ask that you use when you talk about the work. So we hope that this toolkit will be super useful to you, but also know that there is a team of communications folks on your side. We're here to answer questions. We're here to support you in your work. And we really look forward to being partners and telling the stories and uplifting your stories of your incredible work. So that's it from me. Next slide, please. I am available for questions right now if there's time. If not, I can take them in the chat, or of course, please feel free to email us. On behalf of the entire communications team, we really look forward to working with you, and we thank you and congratulations again.
Thank you, Sam. I have a question, but I can take that one. So, or there is a question, I can take it. But when can we expect to receive the toolkit? We'll go ahead and share the toolkit along with the recording of this presentation very likely today, and if not today, then on Monday. We'll probably look to just initially share the link to the Zoom recording and then get it to our website at a later time. And so that way we can get you this information as quickly as possible. But we will definitely be sending that to you all by early next week. Okay, well, if no other questions, then I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Andrew.
I have a quick question real quick.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
In terms of the in-person training sessions or orientation, you indicated Sacramento, so it would be at Sacramento.
So the youth convening will be there, and we understand that not everybody may have added that to their budget, but there is probably very likely travel that you've listed in your for your staff to come to Sacramento, because that was included in the RFA. We won't at this point for 2023. We aren't looking for all organizations to come to Sacramento, but there'll be a regional convening for funded partners. So staff of your organization, those convenings will happen regionally, but we will look to have a youth convening in person in Sacramento. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, well then, if no other questions, we'll pass it to Andrew, and we'll have time for questions at the end as well.
Yeah, thank you, Palvinder. So I'll just go over some closing reminders and other items. So, we just want to share that the center and our team here, we do provide technical assistance, webinars, and resources. We really want to just build this community of practice, and we see all of you as agents who are expanding the network of substance use prevention, in the field of California, and all the work that's being done on the field, in the field. And so, again, we briefly shared previously, but again, the elevateyouthcalifornia.org website does have a lot of different items on there, and one of them is the resources and trainings. And so when you go into that website, near the navigation bar on the top right, you'll see resources. If you hover over that, there will be two drop-down items, the resources and then the trainings. And if you go to the trainings, you can see some of the previous like technical assistance that we've had around like evaluation, communications, policy systems change. And again, these are just some of the few topics. Other topics include prevention, education, early intervention, early childhood trauma, toxic stress, ACEs, social and emotional development. And so, we will be going through the applications. As many of you may remember, in the last narrative question on the application that you submitted to the EYC round 4 track, there was a question around like, oh, what technical assistance would you like to see? And so we will be, going through that, analyzing it to kind of see the themes for this cohort and to make sure that, we will be offering future trainings really catered to your cohort. Next slide. So in addition to that, there will be more information coming, but we just want to highlight there's other learning and engagements outside of the in-person convening as well. And so one of them are our monthly networking sessions, which is really a good opportunity for our partners to network with each other, learn from each other. We know that a lot of you have different expertises. And so, it's just a really great opportunity to learn, not just learn from each other, but also to meet other partners who may be in the same regions as you and to help foster, that collaboration further. Also, again, webinars and then one-on-one sessions. Our team does offer a variety of opportunities to just hop on a quick phone call with us. If you have any questions around like reporting or something like that, we are more than welcome to just hop on and just do a one-on-one session with your team as well. And then next slide. All right, so just an important reminder for the timeline of initial payment. Again, the first payment will be contingent upon receipt of the fully executed agreement as well as the insurance requirements. Please note that all charges that are incurred after November 16th, which is the start date of your program and identified in the approved budget, are allowed. However, award payments will be made by us once we receive funding from DHCS and receive all the requirements from your organization as well. And then communications, then some other items to stay on top of. So again, just the executed contract agreement for reporting. We will be hosting subsequent webinars specifically focused on the reporting template. So, when you go on our website, you might see some trainings of previous reporting templates. I would say just hold off on it for now because we will be having a specific training webinar with your cohort around the reporting template for your cohort as well. And then just a friendly reminder around listening sessions. As we previously mentioned, it is required 1 per year. And I know that as the year and program goes on, sometimes it's easy to just lose track of some of those. And we do want to just remind again that it is required 1 per year. So for example, this is a 3-year program. If you do 3 in year 1, you are still required to do another 1 in year 2 and another 1 in year 3. And so we just want to acknowledge that. And it's really just a way to ensure that, all of our partners are, centering youth voices in their work, not just in the beginning or the end, but throughout the entire program. And then, virtual in-person convenings, we'll be on the lookout for those reminders. And then resources. So I will be sharing a link into the chat as well around how to sign up for our newsletter. So the EYC team, we do send out a monthly newsletter that contains, reminders, resources, partner highlights, and then, so please, with that link, you can feel free to share with anyone else on your team who you feel should be receiving those newsletters. All right, with that, we can go to the next slide, and I'll pause again for just any final questions or comments.
Yeah, if there's a question, we'll go ahead and take it. I see a hand raised.
Oh, sorry, actually, I see you just responded, so never mind. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. So we have about 5 or 7 organizations. I had to do a quick count here. 7 organizations who haven't received their contracts yet. If you haven't received it, you're very likely a part of those 7, or very likely your executive team member or the signatory who's supposed to sign may have not checked their email, or it may have gone to their other inbox or to their junk folder. They would receive an email from DocuSign directly that will ask them to sign. So, it went to the signatory that is, or your executive director or the signatory that is to sign that agreement. If you need any changes on that, if there is someone else that should be directed to, please email us at these 2 emails at the top of this list on the slide, and we'll go ahead and make that change. If you're a part of the 7 that have not, what I will just mention, so if we were requested to have a budget modification, you're a part of those organizations, and we'll be getting those to you all on today or Monday. And then Andrew just dropped in the link to sign up for our newsletter. The other piece I'll mention is that if at any time you would like to have additional staff added to our emails that go out, so at this time your organization was asked to complete a survey that was linked in the award notification email. We'll follow up with any organizations that have not completed it. And that's an opportunity for you to include all staff who should be receiving what level of, or what sections of communication. We understand that there's the reporting, there's the financial piece, there's the sort of executive decision-making piece. So we ask that you submit that survey if you haven't already. We'll do some follow-up, if not today or on Monday, to ensure that all organizations have submitted that. And at any time, if you have new staff transitions, need to have someone removed from the mailing list or someone added to the specific email list that are receiving all of our regular communications, just email us at the 2 emails that are listed on the top of this slide. That is usually your best sort of contact, is those 2 top emails, and we'll be able to review your documents, get you the answers that you need as best as we can. Any other questions? Okay, well, seeing none, and we'll stay on for a few more minutes after this, but I again wanted to congratulate you all. The Elevate Youth California is the program it is because of all of our funded partners. I don't think I shared this at the top of the sort of slides, but there was over 147 applications, if I'm not mistaken, 147 applications, and we were able to award 61 funded partners. You all are seen as experts in your field and are doing this work that is community driven, have the backgrounds and experiences that the communities that you're working with have as well. And we see you as experts in this field, and we look to you to determine the best strategies of implementation and prevention with all of the youth and young people you're working with. So we cannot make this program what it is without all of you and the work that you are doing. So we hope that we can be in a true partnership with all of you throughout these 3 years, and hopefully beyond as well for this particular program. And so if there is any time that you need anything, you are more than welcome to send us an email. We'll look to see how we can get that addressed over email, or jump on a quick phone call, as Andrew mentioned. We are really here to support you all. We take our role as administrators of the contract with the Department of Healthcare Services very seriously. Having been involved in youth work and social justice youth development prior to my time at the center, I understand the needs of emerging and grassroots organizations that are small and mighty, that are doing much work that is needed for communities that hasn't been provided and isn't provided in any other forms. So we are here again as true partners, and that is our commitment to you all. We aren't looking for just reports to be submitted or requirements to be fulfilled and for you to check off boxes. We want to see how we can best improve the outcomes and lives of young people in the state of California. And so Again, thank you all for this partnership. We are beyond excited to be working with you all and be in partnership with you all for the next 3 years. So you can hold me to this anytime, you send us an email or anything else comes up for you all. Again, however we can best support you through technical assistance, support, webinars, whatever it is, we'd love to see how we can do that and ensure that we're providing the support that you all need that is relevant to you. So again, thank you all. Thank you all for staying on for this orientation. We'll be sending out the slides as well as the recording after this call, as well as the communications toolkit. We'll send out some information about upcoming reporting webinars and additional information about the networking session in January shortly. But again, take times to celebrate. Take time to celebrate this award and this partnership. It's going to be a good 3 years. So we're really excited, and we want to acknowledge that it's probably taken a lot for you to get here potentially. So we're really excited to be working with all of our 61 funded partners in this cohort and add you to our list of a total of 225 community-based organizations that we are honored and privileged to be working with. So with that, have a great rest of your day, and we look forward to being in touch soon.
Thank you, Pravinder. Thank you so much in your team. You guys are awesome. We're fired up. We want to help our youth all over the state. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.